Have you had any coordination at all this week with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation?
No, I have not personally. I know that there's been some meetings that have taken place around the Europe, particularly on some of the things, but we've not seen a plan.
So obviously, this is just the latest in the horror show that is Gaza. Dozens of Palestinians killed near Gaza aid distribution point, health officials say, in third consecutive day of shooting near these aid distribution centers. Just think of how Orwellian that is. Palestinians on their way to receive aid from a distribution site in southern Gaza have come under fire for a third consecutive day, with nearly 30 people killed and dozens wounded, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health and Nasser Hospital. The ministry said Israeli forces opened fire on Palestinians as they made their way to the distribution site in Tel Al Sultan in Rafah early Tuesday. At least 27 people were killed and dozens injured, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry and the director of Nasser in Gaza. Footage obtained by CNN showed people arriving at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, many on stretchers. Dr. Marwan Al-Hams, the head of field hospitals in Gaza, said Nasser has been overwhelmed by the number of casualties coming in. So Ron Yakalik from Breakthrough News, great channel, great account on X. The Israelis have starved Palestinians for 3 months. Now they are luring Palestinians to distribution points with desperately needed aid and shooting them. It's a sick death trap. This is vicious genocidal behavior supported by the most powerful countries in the world, whose leaders call us uncivilized and violent, meaning the pro-Palestine protesters. So Suppressed News posts this video from Channel 4. Channel 4 released a detailed timeline of the Rafah massacre, where Israeli forces killed over 31 Palestinians and wounded more than 200 near a death trap aid distribution point. So we'll play the first couple minutes of this report, which is all we can show you on YouTube, because there is some violent content in the full thing. But this one will give you an idea of the site and scene at these aid distribution sites.
Exactly what happened has been highly contested, the Israeli military saying it hadn't shot at Palestinians at or near the site, but multiple witnesses say they were shot at while trying to reach the site, belonging to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
The US and Israel, what do they tell us? Go and get your food and water and aid. When it arrives, they hit us. Is this fair? Those who go to get food from there, they die.
GHF has so far established 4 what it calls safe distribution sites inside Gaza. On Sunday morning, only one site, SDS-1, was due to open at 6 a.m. But from midnight already, thousands of people had gathered at a junction just over a kilometre away. Many, we're told, had travelled from the far north of the Strip. As more locals arrived, pressure to get to the front intensified. Witnesses tell us the crowd moved slowly southwards.
Now, I'll just pause it for a second. We've said this in the past, but it's important. They're setting the aid up in the south because they want to clear out the north so they can settle the south for themselves.
Right.
So what they're doing is they're forcing everybody in the north, okay, if you want food, you have to walk south, and then we'll give you the food. Of course, when they get there, very few of them get the food, and dozens of people are shot at for now 3 days in a row. Think of that. For the third day in a row, they fired on people at an aid distribution site. I mean, these are headlines that, like, if you were writing a movie, you would have to rewrite the scene because you think, well, no one would believe that. No, it was 3 days in a row. You open fire on people who you're supposed to be giving food to, and the international community does nothing about that. Like it's beyond imagination. I've been using that phrase a lot because it's true. It's beyond the imagination. You couldn't think this up if you tried.
Tank near the site fired warning shots, armed quadcopters, first broadcasting verbal warnings, then shooting warning shots themselves. At around 3:30, we're told there was chaos, crowds running back and forth, soldiers, tanks and naval boats all firing. This is when the first gunshot injuries are reported. An hour later, the crowd, now the biggest since the start of the GHF operations, surged for the aid site, and this was when the majority of killings happened. Even then, many still tried to reach the site, hundreds doing so around 5 a.m., stripping it bare, witnesses say, within minutes.
Okay, and what Israel is saying, by the way, as if this couldn't get more demonically absurd, is that the aid sites are safe because we technically don't fire at the aid sites, but they fire online to the aid sites. That's what they're actually saying.
Wow.
It's an account that suggests the new aid mechanism is simply not up to dealing with such numbers, such need.
This is all we've walked away with. We were there, lying on the floor since 4 a.m., and the quadcopters were firing at us. The Israelis were firing at us. People were crouching on the floor, women and children, and in the end, all we left with is a can of fava beans.
That bag. There's a can of beans out of that bag that he has there. Play that one more time.
This is all we've walked away with. We were there, lying on the floor since 4 a.m., and the quadcopters were firing at us. The Israelis were firing at us. People were crouching on the floor, women and children, and in the end, all we left with is a can of fava beans.
Just unbelievable. So unbelievable that we're starting to even see some headlines like this. U.S. consulting firm quits Gaza humanitarian aid effort amid criticism. A U.S. and Israeli-backed aid initiative to feed, U.S. and Israeli-backed initiative to feed starving Gazans has struggled during its first week of operations. Oh, it has struggled, really, with the resignation of two top executives, allegations that the Israeli military has shot into crowds of civilians rushing to pick up aid packages, and the ongoing refusal of the United Nations and humanitarian partners to join the effort. Well, the UN has been frozen out. This GHF was set up to usurp the UN.
Right.
That was the whole point of it. It's not the UN is not willing to go to Gaza, is that they cannot be there when these people are there for pretty obvious reasons.
Right. Yeah.
On Friday, a leading U.S. management consulting firm hired last fall to help design the program and run its business operations withdrew its team operating on the ground in Tel Aviv. A spokesperson for the firm, Boston Consulting Group, said the company had terminated its contract with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and placed one of the senior partners leading the project on leave pending an internal review. 3 people closely connected to both the GHF and BCG, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the matter, said that it would be difficult for the foundation to continue to function without the consultants who helped create it. In addition to helping develop the initiative in close coordination with Israel, BCG set the prices for paying and equipping the array of contractors who built 4 distribution hubs in southern Gaza to deliver the aid. They are actually making the wheels turn, said one of the people of BCG's involvement. A spokesperson for BCG stated that the firm had provided, quote, pro bono support to the humanitarian operation and will not get paid for any of the work it has done on behalf of the foundation. Another person familiar with its operations contradicted the firm's account, saying that BCG had presented monthly invoices of more than $1 million. The UN and other aid professionals, as well as some foreign aid donors, have long expressed concerns about the viability, morality, and safety of the GHF's model, which confines food distribution to limited sites in the south and leaves Israel in control of how much aid enters the enclave. Nearly all major humanitarian organizations have refused to participate on the grounds that it violates their rules of neutrality and appears designed to further Israel's war aims. Even some senior Israeli defense officials have questioned the GHF model, anticipating that long lines could lead to stampedes, according to internal documents obtained by the Washington Post. And of course, these long lines have led to stampedes. It's almost like people who have experience in these situations could see how doomed to fail this was at the outset. And of course, it was doomed to fail by design. Don't forget, Netanyahu, Bezalel Smotrich, they had to go on camera and essentially apologize to their own people for allowing any aid in at all. They're saying we're only doing this to essentially make a show of providing aid so that we'll continue to get weapons. This was never intended to actually provide anywhere near adequate aid
Of course not.
for the Palestinians. Calling the overall situation a tragedy, the World Food Programme's executive director, Cindy McCain, told ABC News on Sunday what we need right now is an immediate ceasefire, complete unfettered access, along with the safe roads, every gate open to feed people and stop this catastrophe from happening. So Michael Tracy observes, it's rather amazing that Cindy McCain now almost sounds radical in an American political context. Exactly. This is not Abby Martin.
I was
This
wondering, is
Cindy
it that,
McCain.
is it that Cindy McCain?
It's that Cindy McCain, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this ain't Abby Martin here. This is Cindy McCain by virtue of working directly on the situation in Gaza. So here she is on George Stephanopoulos.
I think you can add about this incident this morning, Hamas claiming 31 people killed. You just saw the GHF denying that anything happened. Do you have any independent information?
Well, our people are reporting the same thing on the ground. It's a tragedy, and what we need right now is an immediate ceasefire, complete unfettered access, along with the safe fence roads, every gate open to feed people and stop this catastrophe from happening. If we don't do that, it's going to be a humanitarian catastrophe, as I said, like none other.
So just to be clear, you're saying your people believe that the incident did in fact happen and that individuals were killed this morning?
Yes, we do.
You're calling for a ceasefire right now. Steve Witkoff said there's been a step back. How important is that right now? And what more can be done to implement that ceasefire?
Well, the previous ceasefire proved that we could do the job. We were getting in over 600 trucks a day during the ceasefire into Gaza. So people were not, they didn't have the feel of desperation. They knew food was coming. They knew they had access to food right now. And now we don't. I mean, they don't have nearly enough access points. They don't have nearly enough food going in. And so the feel of desperation, you can see it in the video, it's very disheartening. I mean, for all of us that do this, this is what we do. We understand what it takes and we understand the complexity of it, but we also understand the grave humanitarian need that is existing now.
So she makes an important point there. Once again, this is John McCain's wife. This is a neocon Republican.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, what she's saying there is that during the ceasefire, when the UN was allowed in, we were able to get, I mean, nothing is adequate, but they were able to, maintain some level of aid distribution. And now what the United States and Israel have done is they have shut these organizations out so that they could handle the aid operation, which of course is just another vehicle for occupation and ethnic cleansing. The very fact that they set these up in the South and force people to relocate, that tells you what the real motivation behind this was. And the fact that this is getting so bad and so transparently sadistic and evil that the American companies that joined are now having to withdraw support shows that really this chapter of it is the reason why there has been a noticeable I would shift in opinion, if you want to call it that, is because there is just no excusing this. And the fact that once they opened up Gaza to aid, it has gone arguably worse because of these massacres. I think the day 2 massacre, they actually called the Witkoff massacre because of this negotiated arrangement that has led to essentially a U.S. and Israeli mercenary group distributing aid while collecting biometric data on these people, tracking their movement, forcing them to relocate. It's completely dystopian and hellish. And the fact that it's getting so bad that the companies themselves are having to back out shows you that the withholding of aid and then the way in which just the manipulative and cruel way that they have reintroduced quote unquote aid to Gaza has just escalated this to a point where, as you'll see in our next segment, the former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert is actually speaking out. And so they have just completely destroyed their image on the world stage. They are well on their way to being a pariah state. That is accelerating very, very quickly because of shit like this. When Cindy McCain is on ABC News talking about how, we need a ceasefire, That's how you know you're losing, and they are losing in that sense.
Yeah, there will never again be a day where Israel is able to kind of, as it has for 76 years, fly under the world's radar. That they most people just didn't really understand what was really going on in Israel. I think most people had accepted at worst the it's complicated formulation. Oh, it's
Right.
complicated. These people fighting over this land. Why can't we all just get along? And they did not really understand the demonic nature of the Israeli state. And now it's just been exposed for all the world to see. The level of arrogance that has come from being able to essentially brutalize this population for 3/4 of a century while being perceived as the victim
Yep.
has made them arrogant to the point that they are committing genocide in broad daylight and thinking that they will be able to continue to function as a state. You can see the Israeli thinking is very the ends justify the means, and one day, well, as I saw in Australia, the Aborigines will come very often and do a little ceremony before a
Right.
concert, that kind of thing. One day we'll have, Palestinian will come and dance before the opening of the symphony. And
Right.
at that point, it'll be a fait accompli. People can wring their hands. They can make very guilty documentaries about how terrible it was. But at that point, greater Israel will have been accomplished. That's what they're thinking. They're thinking this too shall pass.
Right.
This is our opportunity. People have a short memory. And don't worry, once it's done, yeah, maybe a few years it won't be very popular. I don't think so. It's a very small country. The United States, its principal backer, the country has seen better days, and the other Western powers are finding this so horrific that even Germany, even Germany is starting to speak out against this. Thousands of Israeli businesses have gone under. Somebody just tagged us in a video of an Israeli cruise ship went to Crete, and the Greeks started screaming at them and protesting
Right.
against the cruise ship. It's going to be like that for Israelis. I don't see that changing. I've been saying, some people say it's overly optimistic. I think Israel is going to collapse as a state, especially because it is not a state full of people who are going to be willing to live in a third world country.
Right.
And I think those are going to be the conditions.
Please clap.